Testing 1, 2. All right. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Michael again, bringing to you some live streaming and videos from my study of my real estate course. This is an online course. It's from the the CE shop. You can find the link in the description, and then also some information and any additional resources. We are going through, as you can see, section 8. This course is a total of 19 courses, 19 sections. Each section has a number of units. Like yesterday's, we had 4, and today we are doing section 8, which has 3 units. And then each unit has a number of lessons within it and certain resources. So just to say a few things that I need to say at the very beginning of every video, I am not a real estate licensee. I have passed this course and I am now studying for my state exam, which I'll be taking within a couple of weeks or so. Um, I took this course over the course of about 6 or 7 months. It's a 40-hour course. You can see here at the top right, it tells you how many hours I took the course until I completed it. It's counted as completed. It says, awesome, you've completed this course. So it just allows me to go back in and restudy it. I also have some additional study materials that I'm going to be going over, and then the testing company also provides additional study materials if you want to pay extra money for those. So I am not a licensed real estate licensee in my state, which is Michigan. Um, Hopefully I will be within the next 2 to 4 weeks. That is certainly the goal. I am not an formal educator. This is simply for your exposure to what these courses look like and the type of content in these courses. I am not trying to represent myself as a professional in any way, shape, or form. You will see that I will get information incorrect. If you are watching live, you may um, answer some of the questions as they come up. And if I notice that people are watching live, I may engage with you. That I will get information incorrect, and you can see that's I'm pulling up my live now. So that's me talking. Okay. So again, I am not a professional. I am not a licensee. I am not a teacher. I'm not an educator. This is for educational purposes only. This is to expose you to some of the information that you would have to learn. Um, all states have a national and state portion. There is national information that applies across all states, and then there is state-specific information. So again, for example, Michigan requires a 40-hour course through an accredited school, and other states require more or less. I've heard of states up to 90 hours through an accredited school. Also, this is not a supplement for education. You can't watch these videos and learn through these videos and then go take your state exam. They won't allow that. You must have a certification from an accredited school. So this is my study time that I'm sharing with you. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, put them in chat and I'll do my best to answer them. All right, so we're going into section 8, which is property valuation. We're going to talk about how to value property in Michigan specifically. But again, most of these things apply to um, to other states as well. All right. So in this unit of value, we have 4 lessons. And if you look over here, there are 4 unit resources. These four resources you'll probably see correlate with the 4 lessons available. Different types of value, principles of value, forces affecting, and so forth. So what I do is I click on it and I open it in a new tab and I get each resource ready so that I can kind of breeze through these tabs, these different sections, okay? And it just allows me to kind of breeze through them a little bit quicker. So once I get started on a unit, I can get that unit done. I will take about a 10-15 minute break in between each unit. I will end the video and restart the video. That way I don't have to go back later and break up the video manually. It's all done. At the end of each 4 lessons, there's a unit exam. Again, I've already taken this. Let's go in and see what I got the last time I took this. But I've already done this. I got 90%, which means I got one wrong last time. So we'll see how I do. We'll see how I do this time. Okay. So that's kind of the process. I have to say it several times. I'm not a licensee. I'm not an educator, and I don't want to overrepresent what I am. I'm just studying. I am a streamer. I've streamed for many years, and I've done a lot of informal stuff like this. So it's very comfortable. I also learn easily or better by reading it out loud. So by doing these streams and making these videos, I actually give myself someone or something to talk to. So if that makes sense. So um, if if you find these videos helpful, please like, share, please follow, please comment. Just a hey, I appreciated you doing this, or I found this helpful, or something. Or if you have a question, certainly put it in the comment section now or later. All right. So we're going into Section 8, Property Valuation in Michigan, Unit 1, Value, Introduction and Objectives. Value is worth, but value is in the eye of the beholder at a given time for a given purpose. Worth also relates to scarcity. Is this widget available for 10 cents less elsewhere? And location. Do I have to drive across town to get it? During the real estate boom of 2003 to 2006, property values increased beyond appraisers' ability to keep up, while buyers scrambled and paid $50,000 over list price and more just to make their offer competitive against other buyers. Value today does not equal value tomorrow. Value here does not equal value there. A split level 2,000 square foot, 3 bedroom, 2 bath home in the Bramblewood neighborhood does not equal the value of a 2,000 square foot, 3 bedroom, 2 bath ranch style home in Bramblewood. So many factors determine value and worth. In this unit, we'll take a good look at types of value, principles of value, forces affecting value, and how value may change over time. Objectives. Explain the principles of value. All right. We'll go into our first lesson. Lesson 1 is types of value. Types of value. Did you know that a piece of land's value and price depend on so many different factors? Value can be objective or subjective, and supply and demand are constantly at work influencing price. There are also many different types of value, such as investment value, assessed value, market value, depreciated value, and list price, all of which are covered in the attached resource. Take a look at it, and then we'll move on to the next slide. All right, so again, with each one of these comes a resource, and when I go to the next slide, you'll see there's a knowledge check. So what they want you to do is look at the resource and then come back and test your knowledge. Okay, so let's take a look at the resource. The resource are types of values, stakeholders, explanation. So we've got assessed value, right? Who's the stakeholder? That's the tax assessment office. Who does this type of value, right? And the price placed on a home by a municipality to calculate property taxes. Depreciated value, that's by IRS, calculation for income tax purposes to determine basis of taxable amount. Accelerated depreciation programs have been used by the federal government to stimulate the economy. Investment value, the stakeholder would be an investor. One way to determine investment value is to calculate the return on investment, ROI, and the higher the ROI, the better the investment. Another way to determine investment value is to apply a capitalization rate to the net operating income. Again, the higher the better. List price, owner, right? What This is the amount for which an owner has offered to sell a property. This is what is found in an MLS listing. This is important because an owner could definitely have a different perceived value of their property than anybody who might want to buy it, right? I may say, oh, I put love and care into my home, so my home is worth $500,000, but a comparable home in the neighborhood is only going to sell for 250. There's my perceived value and there's somebody else's perceived value, aka subjective value. Market value, buyer and seller. The purchase price agreed to by the buyer and seller sets the market value, also referred to as the meeting of minds. So if I say my house is worth $500,000 and somebody comes along and says, "Oh yeah, I agree. I'll buy it for 500,000 even though all the other homes in the area comparable went for 250." Now we're affecting the market value, right? Because now a home in the neighborhood sold for twice that amount, and the next person's going to come along and say, "Well, I could easily get 350 if he can get 5," right? It's not quite that easy, and not, most people aren't going to pay 500 for a $250,000 home. All right. Property values mean different things to different people. Who or what entity do you think each of the following terms is most important to? Match each value with the person or agency it will probably matter to the most. Investor, investment value. Government tax office, assessed value. Buyer, market value. We can check our answers. We got them all right. We move on. I do move through this pretty quickly because again I've been through this already. So this is a review for me. However, and I also know that especially if you're watching this after the live is done and it's a video, you can certainly pause it and look at this material longer if you want. All right, so if I am kind of breezing through this quickly, my apologies, but my goal is to get this done within a couple weeks again, and then I've got a bunch of other study materials I need to go through to make sure that I want to pass this test, and I want to pass it with as close to 100% as I can. All right, the buyer and seller decide what? Which of the following options is a name for the price that's agreed upon between a buyer and a seller? That would be market value. All right. Let's wrap this up with one more look at the values. Match the value with the correct description. Excuse me, generally used by investors. Investment value. Used by tax assessment offices. Assessed value. Agreed to by the buyer and seller. Market value. Used for income tax purposes. Depreciation value. Price for which the owner has offered to sell. That's our list price. So this is just kind of a vocabulary lesson, if you will. And for some people, this may seem very obvious, and for some people, maybe not. All right, so we've gone through lesson 1, types of value. Now we're going to go on to lesson 2, the principles of value. Economic principles. When we discuss economic principles, you may find yourself reminiscing about an economics course you took in high school or college. You knew that class would come in handy one night, right? Let's stroll down memory lane a bit while we look at different economic principles that influence property's value. Check out your resource. All right, let's take a look at that resource, Principles of Value. Anticipation. The value of property today is the current value of the total anticipated future benefits. For example, a commercial property is leased for $12,000 per year for 30 years. The value of the property is based on the income that is expected to be received in the future. Competition. The more similar properties that are on the market, the lower the price will be driven. Competition is related to supply and demand. The greater the supply, the more the competition, the lower the demand and price. Less competition increases demand. Less competition increases demand and drive prices upward. Conformity. Value is created and maintained when the characteristics of a property conform to the demands of the market. For example, A house built in the middle of a commercial zone due to zoning changes would be valued differently than a house in the middle of a neighborhood made up of similar houses. You can see the little pictures here. Contribution. A, a change in a property's impacts. A change in a property impacts the value as a whole. Does converting a garage into a family room contribute to or detach from the value? That would be in the eyes of the buyer. Well, for somebody who didn't care about having a garage, that would be a good thing. For somebody like me who wants a garage, that might be a bad thing. Highest and best use. This is the most profitable use that is both legal, conforms to zoning, and economically feasible. Won't cost more than the increase in value. I can tell you, highest and best use is a concept that we're going to have to make sure we understand. So let's read it again. This is the most profitable use that is both legal, that conforms to zoning, and economically feasible. Won't cost more from the increase than the increase in value. Plottage. The joining or assemblage of two neighboring land parcels increases the property value. In such a case, 1 plus 1 often equals 3 or even 5. So two parcels worth 40,000 separately might be worth 120,000 when joined. Regression. This is the value a higher quality property loses by being near a lower quality property. Progression. This is the value a lower property gains by being near a higher quality property. For example, a neighborhood home built on a good quality second story quality remodel, the bump in the value of the neighborhood properties gained in value represent the principle of progression. I want to read that for myself again. This is the value a lower quality property gains by being near a high quality property. Okay, I get that. For example, a neighboring home built on a good quality second story quality remodel. I don't like that. The bump in value that the neighboring properties gained in value represent the principle of progression. Okay. So if I fix up my house, your house benefits. Progression and regression are based in the economic belief that it's better to have the cheapest house in the nicest neighborhood than the nicest house in the cheapest neighborhood. Definitely understand that. Okay. Substitution. A property's value is determined by what it would cost to purchase a similar substitute property. If someone offered you a car that is an exact replica of another car, but was $3,000 less, it would impact your perceived value of the other car. All right, let's go to our knowledge check. Principles of value. Build the story using the following terms. Your resource introduced some principles of economics that may influence property value. Let's see how well you recognize them. Choose the appropriate text for each blank to complete the story. Sure, it may be the cheapest house on the block, but this is the one of the most desirable neighborhoods in the city. That alone drives up value. This is an example of progression, I think. We'll find out. Growing up, Harry and his siblings spent every summer day splashing around in their in-ground pool. Now that he owns the home and is responsible for maintaining the pool, it's just not as much fun. When a crack developed, he decided to fill in the pool rather than repair it. But now that he's considering selling, he's wondering what effect that action had on the property's value. This is an example of contribution. What an eyesore. You'd think that if the bank had any interest in selling the property it foreclosed on, it'd make it a little more presentable. There's broken glass, debris in the yard, and overgrown weeds. This house is driving down the value of everything else in view. This is an example of regression. Let's see if I got that right. I did. I was kind of a little bit A little bit, not 100%, but I did. Okay. Makes sense. So contribution is because he changed something significant about the house. It was a house with an in-ground pool. Now it's not a house with an in-ground pool anymore. And that certainly contributes to a price change. All right. More principles of value. Match these examples with the appropriate principle. Mario can't give away a quarter-acre lot. Everyone is looking for more land. So he combines two parcels of half-acre lots, which are selling like hotcakes. What is that? That's plottage. Jane owns an empty warehouse. She's contemplating whether she stands to profit more by keeping the property industrial or converting it to residential condominiums. I think that's substitution, but I'll leave that blank for a minute. Ted will have a hard time getting his asking price, especially now that a similar house with the same floor plan and finishes just sold for 10,000 less. Oh, I'm going to say I think I could be wrong. Yeah, I got that wrong. Let's reread it. Okay, this was plottage. We know that. Combined combined a couple acres, a couple plots. So they're saying this is substitution. Jane, okay, owns an empty warehouse. She's contemplating whether she stands to profit more by keeping the property industrial and converting it to residential cones. So substitution, huh? Ted will have a hard time getting his asking price, especially now that a similar house with the same floor plan and finishes just sold for 10,000 less. I don't know. No, I just did that wrong again, didn't I? Okay. So this is highest and best use. Where it kind of throws me off is it doesn't say that it's already zoned for industrial or residential. If it is, then obviously highest and best use would be converting it to residential. And then substitution obviously is one house. Let's go back. Let's go back and read substitution. Where is that? A property's value is determined by what it would cost to purchase a similar. Okay, so because another house is for 10,000 less. Okay, all right. So he told you I'm not perfect on this stuff. Even more principles of value. Build the story using the following terms. Choose the appropriate text for each blank. In Heather's neighborhood, blank for buyers is stiff. She put her home on the market, and within the next week, there were 5 more homes for sale on her street. So competition for buyers is stiff. Why would anyone build a home in the middle of an industrial area? Okay, granted, the home is more than 100 years old, and this was not an industrial area when the home was built, but this will still influence the property's value. This is an example of conformity. This home is out of conformity. All right. I think we're done with lesson 2 of unit 1. All right. Unit 3. Sorry, lesson 3 of unit 1. Forces affecting value. So you can start to see the pattern that develops here. We read the resource and then we do our little knowledge check. A tale of two properties. Let's imagine two identical properties. Identical except that one is in an area where the forces drive the value down due to below average schools, poor amenities, low wage base, etc., and other in an area where the forces drive the value up, award-winning schools, stellar amenities, high household income, etc. 4 primary forces impact the value of real estate. Just like the 4 winds of nature, the direction they blow can make all the difference. All right, let's read our forces. Oh, these are all going to start popping up on me. Forces affecting value. Political and government forces, zoning laws, building codes and fire regulations, rent controls, fiscal and monetary policies, government guaranteed loans and housing, environmental legislation. These are all political and government forces. Then we have economic forces, interest rates, employment trends and wages, rent and price patterns, credit loan availability, development, industrial, and commercial trends. All right, social forces, population growth or decline, marriage, divorce, birth, and death rates, attitudes toward education and recreation, ideals about family size. And then we have physical and environmental forces, qualities of amenities, availability of schools, shopping, public transit, etc. Similar, similarity of land use, physical hazards, barriers to future development, access to other areas, regions, climate, and topography. All right, let's go do our knowledge check. Is the four forces? Is the force with you? Let's see. What four external forces influence a property's value? Environmental, social, political, and economic. We got it. We got it. Economic. You know what? I'm going to put this in my. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to open up my uh, flashcards here. This is what I call it. It's just a cheat sheet, actually. It's not really flashcards, but it's what it was supposed to be, but never really quite got there. So the four forces are. Oh, booger. Let's see. There we go. Four forces of property value. Because you know these are probably going to come up, right? All right. So environmental, social, political. Political and economic. Can I type today? Maybe. Maybe. All right. Want to make those quick notes as I see that I know I'm going to remember. I need to remember things. All right. Environmental and political forces. Now that you know the forces, let's see if you recognize examples of each. Sort these items based on which type of force they are. Quality of amenities. Are they environmental or physical or political, governmental? We're going to say they're environmental, physical. Ability of schools and transportation. Environmental legislation, definitely governmental. So we're going to say environmental and physical on this. Schools and transportation, although that's. Let's go back to our resource. What are we looking for? Schools and transportation. Schools and transportation. Where's transportation? Physical. What are our two options? Political or environmental? Environmental, physical, or political, governmental? Yeah, schools. So that is environmental, physical, political. Yeah, we got it. Okay. All right. Social and economic forces. Now let's take a look at these two forces. See if you recognize examples of each. Sort these items based on which type of force they are. Employment trends. Is that economic or social? We're going to say that's economic. Development trends. I'm going to say that's probably economic too. Attitudes towards education. I would say that could be social. Population growth, I would probably say that's social too. Now I'm going to tell you, with this course, they make it super easy. It's It's kind of easy to cheat through this course, and that's not obviously what we want to do. But they don't really make it very complicated. I'm not gonna lie. You're probably thinking, man, this is really easy, Michael. It kind of is. And here's the secret: the course is way easier than the state test. So we passed the course, my husband and I, and we're both taking, going to be taking the state course, the state test to become licensees. We passed this course with 96%. Okay, flying colors. We did the sample test through the testing company, this third-party testing company that the state uses. We didn't do nearly as well, which clearly told us we needed to go back and do some studying, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. The questions and answers through this site, through this course, are very simple and easy. The questions through the state testing facility company is much more complicated, much differently worded, and intended to be slightly confusing. I'm not going to lie to you. So it's easy to pass the course and get the certificate to take the state test, but the state test is going to be difficult. And from what I see, a good portion of people fail at least once. And I've seen some people report that they failed as many as 7 or 8 times. And it's $80 every time you take the exam, the test. So I'd rather spend another couple of weeks studying and getting this information down than throwing out money, $80 2 or 3 times. So that's the goal here. All right, effect on value. You've identified the 4 categories of forces and examples of each. So now try your hand at determining the effect these items may have on value. Do these things drive the value up or drive the value down? Lack of shopping and other amenities, they drive the value up or down? They drive the value down. High unemployment rates, probably going to high unemployment rates are probably going to drive the value down. Low interest rates. Low interest rates are probably going to drive values up, right? We saw that just recently. People were getting 3 and 4% interest. Now all of a sudden they can afford more home, which means homeowners charge more for their homes. It's kind of a double-edged sword. High availability of credit, again, probably drives the value up. Let's see. Great work. Woohoo. All right, next one. Again, a lot of these are pretty simple. But when I get into in a couple of weeks, when I get into some of the state sample quizzes, you will be able to see the very, very drastic difference between these questions and the the state questions. Very, very different. Okay, forces affecting value. Did we just do this one? I think we did. Yes. All right, we're on 4 here. Let's go back. Start lesson 4. Again, this is just a review. All right, lesson 4. I mean, I wish I didn't have to do this, but I need to really cement some of these things into my brain. Property value fluctuations. You've heard the old adage about how the value of a new car drops the moment you drive it off the lot, right? Does that mean the value of a home drops as soon as you unlock the door? Not at all. Check out your resource to see long and short-term fluctuations in median home prices in the U.S., including one 4-year period from 2006 to 2010. All right. So let's see if we can see this. Get this all on screen here. What do we got? 2006 through 2010. Well, this is 1940 through 2010, but so here's 2006 through 2010. Median household price was 185.2, and of course it went up, and then of course we had the recession, Great Recession, which hit us in somewhere 2007 and 8, and we can see the home prices went down through 2010, and of course that was 14 years ago. A lot has happened since, and that $180,000 home is probably worth 300,000 to 400,000 today. All right. So there's not much else we can look at this. We can see median household price in 1940 was just under 3,000, and by 2010 it's at 180,000. All right, and we can see how it kind of really went up from the 70s on up, didn't it? Crazy, crazy. Okay. Long and short-term fluctuations. Values fluctuate, that's certain, based on what you've seen. How do property values fluctuate over the long and short term? Value tends to fluctuate upward, long term. Value tends to fluctuate up and down, short term. Okay? So the long term trend is definitely up. The short term trend is, it's like the stock market, goes up and down based on many factors, and every market is, of course, different. All right, got that right. Wrapping up value fluctuations. Another adage: they're not making any more land. Therefore, over long periods of time, real estate values tend to increase. Don't you wish you'd purchased property 30 years ago? The same property is likely now valued at a much higher price. However, there's less certainty over what will happen to housing prices in the short term. Imagine a couple who purchased a house today intending to sell in 5 years. A couple of years after they purchase their home, a big employer in the community shuts its doors. In the short term, property values suffer, but given enough time, they will probably recover. Looks like we may be done with lesson 4. All right, we're going to take our unit exam. It's 10 questions. Like I said last time, I got 90%, which means I got one wrong. Hopefully we do as well, if not better. That's always the goal. Let's go. Now, we won't see the answers to these questions until we've answered all 10. All right. The blank is the price at which an owner has offered to sell the property and is the amount that's found on the MLS when a property is listed for sale. That is our list price. Your neighbors build a high quality addition to their home, increasing its value compared to your own home's value. Because of this, you notice a bump in your property value. Which economic principle is at work here? Progression. It's not regression, it's not price bump, it's not conditional value. Regression is the only other word that we've learned in this unit. Okay. The price list, the list price is the price for which the blank has agreed to sell a property. Owner. So some of these questions are very redundant, as you can see. Interest rates, availability of credit, and employment trends are examples of which force that influence property value. Okay, interest rates, credit, and employment. What are all of these? These are all economic, right? These are all economic forces. Right? A rundown home. Now I could be wrong on some of these. We'll find out at the end. I know I sound confident, but that's just me. I have fake confidence in my tone sometimes. But I will be the first to admit I'm wrong if I am. Okay. A rundown home, overgrown with weeds and in desperate need of repairs, is driving down property values on the block. What economic principle is at work here? The opposite of progression is regression. All right. Which type of value is used to calculate property taxes? Assessed value, depreciated value, list price, or market value? That's going to be our assessed value, I believe. Which economic principle says that value is created and maintained when the characteristics of a property fit in with its surroundings? Which economic principle says that value is created and maintained when the characteristics of a property fit in with its surroundings? We're going to say conformity because it conforms to its surroundings. Population growth, marriage rates, and attitudes toward education are examples of which force that influences property value. Is it economic, physical or environmental, political or governmental, or social? I'm going to say social. All right, two more. The economic principle that tells us that when supplies goes up, price goes down is also called supply and demand. I believe that's what it is. Let me reread it one more time. The economic principle that tells us that when supplies go up, price goes down is called supply and demand. I believe that is the answer. Let's go to the next one. Which economic principle pertains to how a change in a property affects its value as a whole? Which economic principle pertains to how a change in a property affects its value in a whole? I believe that is contribution. A change in a property, right? We talked about the pool earlier, right? Had a pool, took it away. All right, let's see how we did. Got 90 last time, we got 100 this time. Woohoo! I got them all right. I don't need to review which one I got wrong because I didn't get one wrong. So I'm super excited about that. That took us about 40 minutes. That was a quick um, unit. So I'm excited about that. Let's take a look at our next one real quick. I will be taking a 5-10 minute break in between, but we'll get just an idea of how long this unit will take. And you can usually tell by those resources off to the side. This one's going to be a little longer. This is going to be 5 lessons, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 resources. Oh, those are flashcards. So 7. Let's see. Sometimes these resources are easy, quick ones. Yeah. So, all right. We're going to take a 10 or 15 minute break in between units. I'm going to stop the video, start it back up when I get ready, and thank you for watching or listening. Please like, please follow, or comment any type of